Good morning. Love seeing the way God's working through all these different things. So here's what's happening this morning. Next week, we're starting a sermon series called 33 Degrees. And it's a really important sermon series where we're going to be looking at where we've been as a church, where we're going as a church, and how we're going to get there. So I just want to encourage you, if you call Mosaic home, to really make a concerted effort to make it here the next 4 weeks. So the series will go all the way through March and it goes into the first week of April. Really, really important stuff for us. So however you make that decision, add my weight to that, pushing you to say, hey, you need to be here. Really, really important. But as I was looking at my preaching calendar, I actually intended to start the series today, but I stupidly was like, well, it's daylight savings time. Nobody's going to come to church. You all have completely proven me wrong. I could have completely started it. I forgot all we had to do was bribe you with energy drinks and you come. But we're not starting it today, which gave me kind of an open week because I had originally planned on starting it. So now I have an open week. So here's what we're going to do today. You know how when a director makes a movie, they shoot a bunch of scenes, and then when they edit it, the movie comes out, but there's always scenes that got deleted that didn't make it. And then you can sometimes later watch like the extended version and they add in all those scenes. So we just finished a series in Joshua where we looked at the book of Joshua. We did 8 weeks in Joshua. But there was a bunch of stuff in there that I didn't get to get after. A specific part I was really, really excited about, but didn't quite make the cut. So today I get to add that back in. So this is the Zack Snyder cut of the Joshua series. That's not true because it would be like another 8 weeks long. This is the extended version of the Joshua series today. We're going to jump back in and see a really cool little micro story in Joshua. All right. So have you ever been like searching for an answer in your life? Like you're Googling stuff, you're watching YouTube videos, you're calling your smart friends, not your dumb friends, you're calling your smart friends to try and find an answer. And in the process of trying to find the answer, you come to the realization that you were actually asking the wrong question. You ever had that happen where just a bunch of time and energy spent trying to figure out the answer, and then you realize, oh, wrong question. I actually think that experience of realizing you've been asking the wrong question is a part of our growth process as humans and part of our growth process as people of faith. And the way I've kind of observed this, so I have 4 kids, but I have 2 teenagers and then 2 kids. Okay, so it's like 14 and 15 and 8 and 5. And I've actually noticed this progression even with just these 2 groups. My teenagers, I love my teenagers a lot. They're actually really cool kids. I'm proud of them in a lot of different ways. But if you know anything about teenagers, they can be unreasonable, I guess is a good word for that. However, I will tell you every once in a while, and I use this phrase, if you're familiar with AA, you'll be familiar with this phrase. Every once in a while, they have moments of clarity. For the most part, they're teenagers, they get their eyes glazed over, they're very stubborn about different things, but every once in a while, they will have these moments of clarity. They're like, you know what, Dad? I've been asking this question, you're right, that's actually the wrong question, I should ask this question instead. And I convince them that the thing that they've been pursuing is maybe not the right thing, and they're persuaded to pick another thing. It's not normal, it's like finding a unicorn in the middle of a forest, it's crazy, but I've seen it happen. However, my 4-year-old, if she's asking a question, she will never let go of that question. The spirit of Tom Petty comes over her. Stand me up to the gates of hell, I will not back down. She will not stop until that specific question is answered. Love her, great, lots of energy there. But I can see this progression to say, okay, the 4-year-old will never let go of a question. The teenagers, every once in a while, will let go of a question. But I think as you grow, one of the things that shows you're maturing as a person is realizing, oh, shoot, I've been asking this question. This is actually the wrong question. I need to ask a better question. And maybe that's something to consider with that is like if you've been asking a question and unable to find an answer. You ever have that where you're asking a question, trying to find an answer, and you start to feel stupid? You start to feel like there's something wrong with me. I can't get an answer here. Maybe it's not that you're stupid. It could be. Maybe it's not, though. maybe you've just been asking the wrong question. You've been coming at the problem from the wrong angle. And if you changed questions, you could get an answer. It might be the reason answers are elusive because you've been asking the wrong question. And let's be honest, if you're asking the wrong question, who even cares if you get the right answer, right? The right answer to the wrong question is still going to be wrong anyways. So the questions you're asking are really important. And we have this all the time, by the way. You have this happen all the time in all different areas of your life, big to small. People ask the question, how can I lose weight? Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe a better question would be, how can I actually be healthy, right? I've seen people ask the question, how can I get my spouse to do what I want? Newly married, yeah. Wrong question. Maybe how can I love and respect and communicate better with them? That would be a better question. What are the best lottery numbers? Wrong question, right? Like, as a strategy, it's a bad one. You could ask better questions. So one of the signs of maturity is questioning your questions. Especially if you're stuck in an area of your life, I would challenge you, like, maybe it's not the answer that's got you stuck, maybe it's the question that's got you stuck. This kind of reminds me of a concept I found in an old Francis Chan quote. It's really good. It says this: our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. That's really good, really good. So for our purposes today, it would be our greatest fear should not be of getting the wrong answers, but of asking the wrong questions. Better questions will lead to better answers. So we're going to look at a story today, a little micro story where Joshua asks the wrong question. He asks the wrong question. And this is really, really relevant to us because the specific question that he asked, the principle behind the question, is actually something that I've asked before. It's definitely something you've asked before. I think everybody's kind of asked this question in some form or another, and it's the wrong question. Our culture even asks this question. Even like the parts of culture that wouldn't acknowledge Christianity, I think almost everywhere you see this question being asked, but it's the wrong question. And in order to ask the right question, we need to have a little bit of a paradigm shift. So the scene we're about to look at, I want to set the scene a little bit. If you remember the story of Joshua, the big thing in the book of Joshua is the Battle of Jericho. So remember Battle of Jericho, if you're not familiar, it's a big city. This is the first battle they come to in the Promised Land. God has to show up, man. God comes and knocks the walls down. All they do is walk around the city. It's a really amazing, spectacular, miraculous victory. So the scene we're going to look at happens right before that battle. And I want you to kind of get into Joshua's headspace here. So it doesn't say specifics, but I just imagine it's kind of like a night before the battle walk that he goes on by himself. Maybe he's outside of camp. It's probably a little bit dark out. Maybe the sun's about to set, and he's having like a moment. As a leader, he's praying. And I want you to consider, again, Joshua just became the leader, right? Moses had been the leader. Joshua just got the title. It's a new thing for him. He's probably nervous. He's probably has, elevated heart rate. There's a million thoughts and emotions flowing through him at once. And he's about to face his first battle as the guy. And like, in order for us to really feel that, I don't know, it's like first day on the job. Remember the first day on the job? Scary when you're going in for that first day on the job. But heightened by, if Joshua screws it up, he dies and so does everyone he loves, right? Like, that's, all right, first day on the job, and everybody could die. So like this is about as nervous as you could possibly get, and he's having that kind of a moment there, and this is what happens. We'll be in Joshua chapter 5, starting in verse 13. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Whew. Okay, you got to consider this. If he's outside the camp, you're just imagine walking, worrying, praying, like, God, all right, this is my first battle. You look up and there's a dude standing there that you don't recognize with a sword already drawn. Whoa, this is enemy territory. That's a scary, like if his heart rate was already elevated, it's beaten out of his chest. He probably can't even hear himself talk because that's like fight or flight now. It'd be the same as you walking through the woods and seeing a bear, right? Like, this is scary. Like, what is this guy doing here? Why does he already have his sword out? What's happening? Now, what's going to happen is Joshua's going to ask him a question. And I already spoiled it for you. I'm telling you, it's the wrong question. But when you see it at first, you're going to be like, wait a minute, that seems like a good one. But I'm telling you, it's wrong. So here's what he says, rest of verse 13. Joshua went up to him and asked, are you for us or are you for our enemies? Are you for us or for... Now that's a reasonable question, yes? Dude's holding a sword, you're in enemy territory, you don't know who he is. Hey, which team you playing for, my guy? right? Like, are you Team Jericho or you Team Israel? I want to know, right? I think that's like, that you'd want to know that. I definitely would want to know what team the guy with the sword is playing for. So, how is this the wrong question? Well, we got to dig into this a little bit. So, the answer comes in verse 14. Here's the answer. Neither, he replied. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. Whew. Now that's surprising, right? Wouldn't you say if you were Joshua in that situation and you asked that question, you would actually expect one of two answers. You'd be hoping for, yep, I'm on your team, let's go. You'd be hoping for that guy with the sword, right? I hope you're wearing my jersey. If not that, then you would expect, I'm on Team Jericho. Let's do this. I'm an assassin. Like, you'd be like, all right, now we're going to deal with that, right? You're either running or you're fighting. But those are the two answers you would expect in this situation. The answer you get is door number 3, neither. That's surprising all by itself, but even more surprising is when this man explains who he is. He says he's the commander of the army of the Lord. Ooh. Now, that's crazy. Now look at how Joshua responds, rest of verse 14. Then Joshua fell face down to the ground in reverence and asked him, what message does my Lord have for his servant? Whoa. So when he hears neither, not wearing your jersey, not wearing Jericho's jersey, but I'm the commander of the armies of the Lord, he falls on his face, which by the way, that's an act of worship. He calls the man Lord. And then look how the man responds to that, verse 15. The commander of the Lord's army replied, take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. And Joshua did so. Now that little line, this little verse here is supposed to trigger something in your mind. So if you've at all read the Bible much, if you've been to church much, you've heard of a story where this kind of a thing happens before. It's pretty famous. It's a story where Moses encounters God in a burning bush. Remember that? The bush is burning, it's not burning up. Moses approaches and God tells Moses, hey, take off your sandals for where you're standing is holy ground. This is supposed to have you go, oh wait, hey, Moses had a similar experience to that. This is supposed to parallel Moses' encounter with God, and now Joshua is having something. So if you put all this together, Joshua falls on his face when the man tells him who he is, essentially worshiping this guy. He calls the man Lord. He asks him, hey, what would you have your servant do? And the man tells him to remove his sandals. If you put all of this together, many theologians believe that this is not a mere angel talking to Joshua. Many theologians believe, I believe, that this is actually a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus here. That this is the God-man himself. This is Jesus standing in front of Joshua telling him these things. There's a theological term for it as a theophany. Jesus appearing in the Old Testament. Now, if that's like confusing to you, if you're like, wait a minute, hold on. Joshua's in the Old Testament. Jesus isn't born until the New Testament. This is out of order. How is Jesus appearing before Jesus is even born? If you're like confused by that, my answer to that would be, he's God? God lives outside of space and time, right? And actually, if you read in the book of John, the way John talks about Jesus, he talks about Jesus existing before the world was even created. So Jesus has always existed. Like, but how has he existed before he was born? I don't know. Maybe there's some things about God that are allowed to be a little bit mysterious here, that God is a little bit bigger than us and doesn't actually operate by all the rules that we operate with. So this, him appearing here to Joshua before he's even born is like, yeah, well, he can do whatever he wants because he's outside of space and time. Now, don't get caught up on that. If you're like, my brain hurts, well, stop thinking about it then. Maybe you've had one too many energy drinks this morning. I don't know. It's 2, by the way. I've had 2. That was the answer. You can tell because you're talking fast, Adam, and you're kind of stuttering. So the reason this is important, that I believe this is Jesus, is because, let me restate what just happened. Joshua asks Jesus now. He's having an interaction with God. And by the way, part of the reason, I just want to clarify, part of the reason I believe that, Joshua bows down and worships this man. And every other time in the Old Testament, when that happens, when a person bows down to an angel, the angel corrects him and says, oh, don't worship me. I'm not God. But in this case, Joshua bows down and the guy's like, yeah, that's the right response. And then Joshua calling him Lord, Joshua asking, having the servant mindset. And then when the man tells him to remove his sandals, it's all kind of intended to point us toward one thing. This is an encounter with God that Joshua is having. So, Joshua asked Jesus, are you on my side or my enemy's side? And for what it was, that was a reasonable question, but I think Jesus gave him like a face like, really? Neither. I'm not on either side. I'm not wearing Jericho's jersey, but I'm not wearing your jersey either. I've got my own jersey. Wrong question. Wrong question. Now, you might be asking, why is that the wrong question? He asked if Jesus was playing for Jericho or playing for Israel, and Jesus says, wrong question. Seems like a good question. Now, before I answer why it's wrong, can we make an agreement? You gotta help me here. Can we agree today to recognize nuance? That some things aren't super obviously black and white, like one thing or another, that we need to be able to recognize degrees today. Can we do that? Can we be reasonable people? Because here's what's gonna happen. If you say no, I'm kicking you out. No, if you say no, what you're gonna do is you're gonna come up to me afterwards in the lobby and you're gonna be like, I have a verse, Pastor. And I'm gonna graciously and lovingly be like, I know. And I'll quote it to you. Actually, I'm going to do it before you get to me. I'm going to tell you the verse that you were going to quote back to me. I'll quote it to myself today. But what I want you to do is just wait and let me kind of explain what I mean when I say the thing that you're going to want to disagree with at first, okay? Can we do that? Can you just recognize nuance and not do the, let's get pitchforks, he said something wrong. Let me explain it all the way. There's degrees here. Okay, so Joshua asks Jesus, are you on my side or my enemy's side? Jesus says, wrong question, buddy. Wrong question. What I think Jesus is angling towards here and what I think we need to recognize in this situation, the shocking thing that Jesus said was that he's not saying, yes, I'm on your side. I'm not on Jericho's side either. I'm on neither side. What Jesus is kind of angling towards here is, hey, you're asking if I'm on your side, but what you should be asking is, are you on mine? Not is God on my side, but am I on God's side? Now, I told you got to be able to recognize nuance here because some of you are like, that's not that different. And it's not that different. And at the same time, those are worlds apart. And if you look at the entire book of Joshua, actually one of the big lessons in the book of Joshua is that it's not Israel on a campaign to take the promised land. It's actually God who's on the campaign to take the promised land. Israel's along for the ride. And Jericho's the first example of that. When Israel shows up and Jericho's sitting there, who wins that battle? All Israel does is walk around and they blow a trumpet. God wins that battle. Israel gets to be a part of that. And you see this all throughout the book of Joshua. It's not the people of Israel and God's helping them. It's God and Israel's kind of trying to keep up with God. They don't lose the next battle because God wasn't on their side. They lose the next battle because they weren't on God's side. It's a subtle difference, but it's really, really important. The whole book is designed to get you to see God is trying to do something. Israel gets to be a part of it. God's not wearing Israel's jersey. Israel's wearing God's jersey. It's really subtle, but it's really important. And you're like, okay, what's the difference though? What's the difference between me saying, is God on my side, and me saying, am I on God's side? What's the difference? Well, there's a couple. And this is important for you. So it was important for Joshua. God's trying to teach Joshua a lesson right here, right as he's getting started. And you need this lesson too. That these two questions you could be asking in your life, is God on my side? Or you could ask, am I on God's side? And I want to acknowledge nuance. It depends on where you're at in your faith walk. If you're not a Christian yet, or if you just decided to follow Jesus and you're just starting off, this whole idea that God being on your side might be really important to you. And I want to give you some space to live in that a little while. But if you've been a Christian for a while, you decided to follow Jesus and you've been doing that for a while, like there comes a point where you have to ask a better question. If you're still stuck on, is God on my side? I'm going to start to try and now push you into, hey, actually, let's ask if you're on God's side. Because that's a better question. So what's the difference? The difference between is God on my side or am I on God's side? One of the main differences is control. It's a control question for me. Is God on my side implies you're in control. Am I on God's side implies God is in control. And so I say this typically, it's not always true. You might ask it different than I would ask it, but I want to say typically when you ask the question, is God on my side? You want his power, but you don't want his direction. You want his assistance, but you don't really want his authority. You want his support, but you don't want his sovereignty. It's kind of like you want to drive the car and you want Jesus to like be the gunner, you know? You're like, I've got a destination, I've got a path, there's some enemies in the way. Could you like shoot the bad guys as I drive, Jesus? Can you handle that? Can you make sure there's a way for me to get where I want to go? That's kind of the mentality. It's the opposite of Carrie Underwood, right? It's not Jesus, no, you can't have the wheel. Get the gun, shoot the bad guys for me, I've got the wheel. And I'm saying there's a better question. Flip that around. Instead of saying, God, are you on my side? What if you instead ask, hey, am I on God's side? It changes the whole dynamic. Now, with that question, God is the one driving. God is the one deciding where we're going. God is the one picking the path. I'm submitting to his direction and his authority. It's a whole different mindset. It's a paradigm shift. The reason I do not like the question, is God on my side, is because it implies that you are in control. That now you've made God into a weapon, right? That's what Joshua's asking. Are you going to fight for me or are you going to fight for them? And God's like, buddy, don't work that way. I'm not a weapon to be wielded. If anything, if we want to use that language, you're the weapon. God's going to use you, not you use God. Flip that around. That's the way this went down in the whole book of Joshua. But God is not a means to an end. He's not a weapon to be wielded. That's not the way he works. And again, this is a mindset shift. This is a paradigm shift. That's the first reason I do not like this question, is God on my side? You're not in control like that. This is God we're talking about. The second reason I don't like the question, is God on my side? It's the wrong question. Has to do with how you do what you do. How you do what you do. It's not just the what, it's the how. It's your method. It's the way you do the thing that you're trying to do. And for some reason, and again, this is kind of mostly observational for me, when you have someone who decides God is on my side, you know, when people, they ask the question and then they answer it, yes, God is on my side. For some reason, what happens with us as humans is we start to do the thing where the end justifies the means. And like, well, since God is on my side, I know the thing that I'm doing is a godly thing, and we start to justify getting there however we can get there. And here's my example of this. If you've ever read any history book ever, you know that lots of guys in history have made the statement, God is on my side or God is on our side, and they have used that line to commit horrible atrocities, right? Read any history book. That line gets used as a justification to kind of do however they want to do the thing, whatever. It's their trump card that beats all the other cards. It's their justification to get to any end by whatever means they feel like. God is on our side. And we can do that too. The moment we start to think, oh, God's on my side, for some reason, again, it's like this weird thing happens in our brains. Well, that means I need to get there however I can because God's on my side. We throw methods out the window. But again, flip it. So if this is the wrong question, is God on my side? And that ruins the method of the way you do what you do. If you ask instead, am I on God's side? It just changes everything. Now, all of a sudden, the moment you're asking the question, am I on God's side, it almost requires constant evaluation of your methods, doesn't it? Is this how God would want me to do this? Is this how God would want me to treat that person? Is this how God would want me to talk to that person? Is this how God would want me to talk about that person? The end and the means matter now. Because I'm not asking, is God wearing my jersey? Over here, I'm asking, am I wearing the Jesus jersey? And if I'm wearing the Jesus jersey, all of a sudden everything that I do, the way that I do it matters. Because I'm now representing him. My methods matter. The ends matter. The means matter. All of it matters because I'm asking, am I on God's side? So it changes the way you do things when you shift this question. And then the third reason that this is the wrong question, is God on my side, it's the wrong question, is very similar. When you decide that God is on your side, what almost automatically happens is anyone who's on the other side automatically gets demonized. We demonize the other side. If God is on our side, they're not just wrong, they're evil. Right? Because now listen, if Jesus is wearing my jersey, What jersey they wear? There's only two sides here, right? If God's on my side, then the devil's on their side. It's the devil, right? It's the devil. They're not just wrong, they're evil. And it completely taints the way we view the other side, whoever that would be. I've joked, so I preach 3 times a week. Do you guys know that? So I preach on Thursday, and then I preach at 9 o'clock, and then I preach at 11 o'clock. Well, the first 2 aren't recorded and aren't online. This one is. How you guys doing? So for 2 services, I've said, well, this isn't online. I can say whatever I want. Which camera's on right now? There's 3. I don't even know which one to look at. Well, I have to use it as an example. I'll just have to say it careful. You can see, I want to use this as an example. You can see this idea play out in our country right now, in the political arena. The moment one side says God is on our side, the other side gets demonized, right? Wouldn't you say that? Now, you nod your head. Yeah, you can see it, right? For sure. Here's the crazy part. There are people sitting in this room who are nodding their head for the opposite reason as you. How crazy is that? Do you know we're kind of a purple church? We've got red and blue sitting here. There are people who maybe sitting next to you who voted different than you. For real. I like that, though. I like that we have that. This is good. That means that Jesus is the most important thing, not who we voted for. It's not the most important thing. That's good. However, what I want you to see is the way this has happened. It's just the perfect example that you can see it every day. You can see one side, once they decide Jesus is on their side, God is on our side, the other side isn't just wrong, they're evil, right? And all of a sudden now they're almost dehumanized, and we can say whatever we want about them, we can do whatever we want with them, and it becomes like this holy crusade now to win, and we don't really care about them anymore. They're not really people anymore, and we act however we want towards them. And both sides think it, both sides promote it. And I know you're sitting there thinking, wait, the other side really thinks God is on their side? They do. They do. It's crazy. They're both wrong. If you think that God is on your political side, he's not. Jesus does not wear red and he does not wear blue. Jesus doesn't play for either one of those teams. His answer to you, if you would be like, are you on our side or their side? He'd be like, neither. What are you talking about? I don't do that. He's not a power to be wielded like that. He doesn't pick sides like that. A better question would be, are we on his side? And you need to ask that because it shifts everything with the way you think about this stuff. Stop obsessing over God is on our side. No, he's not. He's not on either side. He's on his own side. He's not putting on that jersey. We have to ask if we're putting on his jersey. And it changes everything. And that means the other side, stop demonizing them, man. They're people. Jesus really cared about people. If you've got the Jesus jersey on, if you're trying to play for his team, you care about people, all people. He said some really important things about people you disagree with. You know that? What did he say about our enemies? What are we supposed to do? Pray for them. Yeah, and not like that, right? Not that prayer. What that means is, especially in this arena, you have to remember, because here's what happens. You want to say, oh, the other side, they're working for the devil. Don't care which one it is. The other side's working for the devil. I want to say, fine, maybe, okay, cool. But they're people. And what that means is they're not enemies to be slain. They're hostages to be rescued. Like that's a different mentality. Like Jesus didn't do the side thing, right? How did Jesus treat his enemies? He treated them as people to be persuaded, people to be won over. He came to seek and save the lost. He was trying to bring them to him. It wasn't some like, let's kill the bad guys. It was no, this is the mission field. He cared about people. They're not enemies to be destroyed. They are hostages of the spiritual forces at work in this world that we're supposed to help rescue. Because remember, Christian, isn't that what the Bible says? Doesn't the Bible say your enemy is not flesh and blood, but spiritual forces at work in this world? The real enemy is not people, it's the devil. Aim at him. Good luck hitting him. He's quick, but it's not people. Your job is to love those people, to persuade those people, to be Jesus to those people, whoever those people are to you. Now, here's the thing. Okay, that's up in the sky. That's when you watch the news. That's when you get on Facebook and you get a little too rambunctious. That's not your real life. You don't really live that. That's an example, but I want you to bring this into your real life. Yeah, okay, so your lesson there is don't be an idiot on Facebook. Don't really care about what you think about politics on the Facebook. Cool. I care more about how this plays out with you in your life. You have people in your life who disagree with you. You have people in your life who you would probably call enemies. People who work against you, stand against you, cause trouble for you. And this mentality where you could go, God's on my side. They're not just wrong, they're evil. That's the part that I want to stop and be like, hold on a minute. How are you supposed to treat them? How are we supposed to act towards them? And for me, where I see this play out, the worst, forget the political arena. The worst people at this are church people. Church people are the worst at this. And it's so weird when I say that. If you don't know me very well, I say church person like it's not me. I'm a pastor, I run one. I still, whenever I say church people, I'm like, not us, like the other ones. But I'm aware that that's an us thing. That's an us thing. But I bet you've been a part of a church thing where this kind of thing played out, right? One side says, God is on our side, and all this plays out. So obvious. They're in control now. They're in control of the destination. The methods get all weird. They start to act very much not like Jesus as they operate. And then the other side isn't just wrong, they're evil. If you've ever been in a church mess before, that's exactly how it plays out, isn't it? And it's the worst. It's the worst. And I'll tell you this, hey, when it comes to like church fights and stuff that happens inside the faith, if you go to a church that like doesn't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, doesn't believe he died on the cross and rose again 3 days later, fight them. Get them. Go holy war that thing, man. That's not a church, that's something else. Get them. Fine. Jesus is on your side. Go for it. Fine. But all the other stuff the churches fight over, the people of God, people who follow Jesus, all that stuff, dude, can we chill a little bit? Do you know, like, I don't know if you know, so like I've been lead pastor for 14 years. I've seen all the different kinds of church fights. Like it's almost like a cliche, or it is a cliche. Like the churches will like, there'll be a church split over like the color of carpet. Have you ever heard of that? That's like a real thing. Like churches have actually, it's not like a funny, haha, wouldn't that be, it really happened. Churches actually be like, no, I think it should be purple. Well, it's royal. I think it should be red because it's the blood of Jesus. Nah. And they split. Red or purple. Literally, for real. That is stupid. Stupidest thing ever. And we don't have, who cares, right? We like the color black here. It's slimming, that's why. I'm even wearing black, that's great. We're not gonna fight about that. But hey, I want you to think about this as how we treat the people of God. There's people who disagree with us about the way we do stuff and secondary theological issues that are not that important. How about instead of saying God's on our side, we keep asking, am I on God's side? How about we keep with that mentality? Hey, God's in control, how I do this matters, and those people are not evil. They might be wrong, but they're not evil. They can innocently and in good godly conviction hold a different belief than I do, and I'm not gonna like demonize them for that. Can we do that? Can we do that? Can we do better at that? Because there's a lot of churches that do stuff different than us. I'm fine, I love them, man. I got pastor friends who do stuff different than us. They're cool. Of course, I think our way's right. I'm not gonna like intentionally do things that I think are wrong, but I don't think they're evil. They're just different, and I'm okay with that. We don't have to do the thing where we split apart. And if you decide to make this your church, can we just do this? Like, we actually have a decent amount of diversity even here when it comes to some of our secondary theological beliefs. I'm okay with that. You keep the Jesus thing and him dying on the cross and raising from the dead, we keep that central. We can disagree about some other stuff. That's fine. I don't think you're evil. I think you're wrong, but I don't think you're evil. But let's do that. Let's always keep in mind that it's not that God is on my side, it's that I'm on his side, and that changes everything. It changes everything. Now, I gotta hurry. I got stuck on the church thing. I love talking about church. I know, some of you are sitting here, hold on, pastor. Buddy. All right, so you're saying that is God on my side is the wrong question? I have a verse for that. And that's what we do as Christians, right? I hit the Joshua 5:13. It's like we're playing tennis. I hit that verse over and you're like, but I've got one. You're going to hit it back and I'll name it for you. You don't have to catch me in the lobby. I'll give it to you. It's Romans 8:31. You got it. You got me. You know that one? It's the one that said, if God is for us, who can be against us? That's a goosebump verse right there. You've ever read that? The whole says it's a good chunk of verses where Paul just rails. If God is for us, who can be against us? And talks about God who gave up his own son for us. And it talks about the spiritual force that were all these things that could come against us. And by the way, he lists a lot of things that could come against you while he's saying nothing can. If God is for us, who can be against us? So pastor, how can you say that's the wrong question when Paul clearly frames it that way? He does, I love that verse. So if you come up to me right now after and you say, is God on my side? If you ask the question that I'm saying is wrong, I'm not gonna say no. I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna ask you what you mean. I'm always gonna push you to a better question, but I wanna ask you what you mean. If you come up to me and say, is God on my side? If you mean, does God love me? Absolutely, God loves you fiercely. We can't even scratch the surface of the understanding of how much he loves you. Yes, I'll answer that quick. If you mean, is God on my side? If you mean, does he want the best for you? Absolutely, he wants better for you than you want for yourself. All the way, 100%. Yes again. If you ask me, is God on my side? And you mean, did Jesus die for me? Did he die in my place for my sins? Did he raise from the dead 3 days later, conquering sin, Satan, death, and demons to provide for me a relationship with him and a future home in heaven? Yes, 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 yes. He is all the way on your side if that's what you mean, 100%. But if you ask this question with like a different kind of a motivation, if you ask, is God on my side? And there's like, it's not about these big theological things. It's more about these little things in our life where we start to ask, is Jesus wearing my jersey? I want to do this thing. And I want God to help me do this thing. Is God on my side? I don't know. Does he want you to do it? Maybe. Or if you use this question or this mentality as an excuse to treat people poorly in your life. See, that's the thing. This is my pastor's heart. I sit in my office all the time with people and they come, and it's so hard when people ask the wrong question because they want the answer to that question. And I feel like a politician sometimes because I'm like, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. I'll answer a different question, but I can't answer that question because you're asking the wrong one sometimes. And this is the main theme of the wrong question. Is God on my side? My husband's an idiot. He's screwed up a million times over. I want to rip his head off. I want to destroy him. Is God on my side? Wrong question. I'm afraid to even say it. Wrong question. Wrong question. Not like that. Or they come to me with all these financial problems, all this stuff, but they've completely ignored what God said about generosity and greed and all that, and they wonder, is God on my side? No, wrong question, wrong question. Or they're in a relationship and they're not married and they're doing whatever they want, not listening to anything that God says about the way a relationship should work. And then they come and like, hey, will God bless this? Is God on our side? You're asking the wrong questions. Wrong questions. Better question would be, am I on God's side? Not, is Jesus wearing your jersey? Are you wearing his and representing his well? That would be so better. So better. And by the way, Joshua got this. If you see the way this played out in this little tiny micro story is the moment Joshua realized who he was talking to. You know, at first it's like, is this guy from Jericho or what? And the moment he realizes, oh, this is God, he like immediately went down. It's like this posture of he's face down on the ground. I'm your servant. What would you have me do? Oh, I'm supposed to take my shoes off. Like it was a completely humble, submissive posture before the commander of the armies of the Lord. And that's what I want to challenge you on. Like, how are you approaching God? That's the real question here. It's not, is God on my side or am I on God? The real question is, how are you approaching him? Because when you come with this, hey God, like, can you just imagine walking into the throne room of Almighty God? His throne is so big, you can't even see the bottom of it. Like and you walk in there and you're like, hey God, are you on my side? It's the dumbest question ever to ask in the presence of an almighty creator. He created the mountains and the oceans. He breathed out stars. He's existed since eternity past into eternity future. He's not wearing your jersey, man. He's not. You can wear his, but you can't ask him to wear yours. It doesn't make any sense. It's the posture. When you approach God, it should be humble. It should be grateful. And it should be submissive. What do you want from your servant? The way Joshua responded is the way we should respond. So that's what I want to leave you with here. And again, if you're starting off in your faith, maybe you're not a Christian yet, you're kind of like, well, what does God think of me? I think he loves you fiercely. I think he wants the best for you, and I think he sent his son to die for you. And if you've never made that decision, man, make the decision to follow Jesus today. Make the decision to submit to him today. Make the decision to ask forgiveness from God today, right now. You can do it right now. Yes, he's for you. He's on your side, for sure. But if you've been a Christian a while, you've been following him a while, and you still have that kind of brash attitude towards God, I just want to say, hey, whoa, chill. Maybe a better way to approach this would be to ask, are you on his? Look down, what jersey do you have on? If you've got your own jersey on, that's the problem, actually. Humble, grateful, submissive. like a knight kneeling before a king. That's the right posture. What's your posture? All right, stand with me. Stand with me. We're going to sing a song talking about God's plans for your life. I want you to reflect on your approach to God as we sing this song. I want you to ask him to help you approach him correctly. Let's pray. Lord, I pray for the person who is sitting here who has never given their life to you. Oh, I pray you move in their heart right now. That the most spectacular and amazing thing would happen. That they would bend the knee to you, submit to you, give their life to you right now in this moment. And I pray that you would just flood them with your presence and your forgiveness and your love. Lord, I pray for the Christian who's been a Christian for a while and they've been bugging you. Are you on my side? Lord, I pray that they would come to the place where they realize that is actually the wrong question, Lord. They would see that it's messing up a lot of different things in their life, asking the wrong question. And I pray for us as a church, Lord, that we would not do that we would not be the God is on our side and bad attitude, nasty towards people. We would not be that, Lord. I pray that we would be a people who continually ask, are we on yours? That we would see people through your lens. That we would care about how we do what we do through your lens. And that you would be in control. Thank you for your presence, Lord. Thank you for being patient with us. Help us to move. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.